Welcome to Born on the Bayou Sports, a Houston sports show made for Houstonians by Houstonians. Join Tim Costello and Scott Barzilla every week as they break down the latest in Houston Astros, Rockets, and Texans news. Tim's a former minor league broadcaster, and Scott has written 2 books on the Baseball Hall of Fame. Yeah, if Javier could get it figured out, it would make things a lot easier because he was that guy everybody was counting on this year to be a Cy Young candidate, take that big step forward and help anchor this rotation with Fromber.
Since he's come to Houston, you can look at the development of guys like Carlos Correa defensively, Jeremy Pena defensively. I mean, you can Alex Bregman's, certainly I think a better than average third baseman.
And now you're putting teams in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9. Now here comes Will Anderson. Pin back your ears, let's go. So if you're Bayou born and bred, or just like spending time in the H, sit down, relax, and stay Houston strong. Welcome all my friends to the show that's back again. Come along for the ride. Scott, welcome back. How are you doing this fine week, my friend?
Yeah, we were just talking about our wooden sticks. You got your paddle. I've got, I guess, what is a chair leg, I guess. Yeah, go with that.
Yeah, Scott, you've laid some claim to the opening question lately, but I had something happen to me today that I want to share, and I want to know if you can top it. While on a team's call today, while also trying to keep an eye on my 2-year-old, or almost 2-year-old, she came in, butt-ass naked, had been clothed, handed me her full diaper of poop, and said, "Ew." I want to know if you've got a parenting moment that was more of a, I got to stop what I'm doing, than that one.
I don't know if I could top that one. I might be able to equal it. Has your naked child ever greeted people at the door?
Not yet.
Yeah, Ann did that. And then, of course, she didn't. She just understood there was a word privacy. She didn't really understand what it meant. So she would run out there naked and just go, privacy. And you're like, that's not exactly what that means.
That's fantastic. I'd love if Scotty busted into the bathroom door as she does to me when I'm going to the restroom and just yelled privacy. That would be a nice little feather in the cap. Well, Scott, I've got the iPad sitting off to my left here, and it's waiting for the Rockets game to start. We've got to talk about game 1. What I would say a rather disheartening performance, really a lack of showing up from some of our biggest players, and yet still it was a lot closer maybe than it should have been when you look at the fact that Amen didn't have any good night, Jalen Green didn't have a good night, Fred VanVleet didn't have a good night, Dylan Brooks didn't have a good night, Tari Eason didn't really do anything. Other than Jabari Smith, Sengun, and big boy Adams, it was really a lackluster showing for your Houston ball club.
Well, certainly on the offensive end.
Yeah.
And I don't know. You tell me, Tim, if Fred VanVleet is leading your team in shot attempts, is that a good night for you?
That's not the plan. That's not the plan. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe that's the way they drew it up. But to me, I want Jalen getting 15 to 20 looks. I want Sengun getting, 15 to 20 looks. Fred VanVleet, in an ideal world, I don't want him shooting the basketball more than 12 times a game, right?
Yeah, I would almost rather have Dylan Brooks shoot it than Fred VanVleet in some instances.
Yeah, in plays being drawn up, right? I don't want either of the guys isoing up and pulling James Harden crap, right? But in terms of drawing up plays, getting guys open, whatever it is, right? Fred VanVleet I don't think we should be running plays for him at this point, right? He should be getting other guys good looks. That's where we're at. Amen should also have the ball in his hand more often, right? Like he needs to be able to create offensively and keep the tempo up. I don't know. Like it was great effort. You said the defensive effort. You mentioned that. That was fantastic, right? To keep this Golden State Warriors team under 100 points. Hey, tip your cap. Good job. But at the end of the day, you've got to score more. And Jalen Green had a bad night. First taste of playoff basketball, and Jalen Green, frankly, did not show up to play. Hopefully tonight's going to be a different story. But, this is going to be a big moment for the Houston Rockets. They've been punched in the mouth, game one, at home, on your own court for the first time in the playoffs for a lot of these guys. And they came out and they stunk up the joint for a good part of the game. They made it close at the end. They couldn't close the door. So how do you respond? How do you come out tonight, and how do you move forward in this series?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that they were drawing up plays for Fred. I think what it was is Golden State realized he was cold and just left him wide open on the perimeter. And I think almost every good shooter will tell you keep shooting it. But is Fred VanVleet really a good shooter?
That's what I was going to say. Are we going to say Fred's a good shooter? He's streaky. He can get hot. But, again, it's like if they're leaving you open, drive. Try and create something. Make something happen. The best players in the world, or, even to use a golf analogy, sometimes you got to find your way around the course when you don't have your best game. Sometimes the driver's not there. We're playing irons off the tee. Sometimes the wedge game is off, and you got to hit an 8-iron bump and run from 60 yards out, because that's the only way you're going to get it close. You've got to find a way to get it done. And if you're not shooting the ball well, you need to find a way to get your teammates involved, to get them better looks, to rebound the basketball, to play good defense, to get yourself to the line, to maybe try and get your stroke going. I don't know. But to just keep chucking them up, probably not what we need to happen.
So if you're looking at this team, and obviously this is early, and nobody's giving up on the series, but if you're looking at the future of this team, they've got a major crossroads this summer. They got to figure out, do we want to keep running this thing out here and just adding pieces, or do we want to shake some things up? If we see more of what we saw on Sunday night, tonight, and in the future in the series, where are you going? Are you going with, they're inexperienced, bring it back next year, let them grow? Or are you into, let's shake a little bit things up?
Yeah, I think either way it's got to get shaken up more than people realize. If I don't even want to say it, but right, the game's about to start right now. If the Rockets come out and lay another dud, and you're down 0-2, going to Golden State. So quite frankly, it's an older team. Like, I get they've got the big names, right? But like Steph Curry and I went to college at the same time. Like I know I feel like shit on a daily basis with my body. Like, he can't be feeling that much better than me. So like, it's just, yes, it's still Steph Curry. He's still gonna do great things. But also Jimmy Butler's in his mid-30s. Like, this is an older team. And if you can't find a way to take advantage of that athletically, I understand that they've got savvy, they've got, superstar talent, but I don't know. I feel like the immediate reaction, I feel like what you want me to say is like Kevin Durant wants to come here this summer.
I'm not even going there, but the thing is, you look at game one, if you want to boil it down to brass tacks, they had two guys that could score the ball. We had one. That was the difference. Now, obviously, there's potentially as many as 6 more games in this series. At the bare minimum, 3 more games. So, obviously, we have a chance to turn this thing around. But if we see more of the same, I have to think that at the very least, if we see more of the same, Fred VanVleet might not be back. At the very least.
I could see that. But I think this is a big game for Fred. Even just they're showing the pregame highlights right now. Steph hit some crazy shots in game one, right? Like, the defense on him was not bad.
Oh, no.
Amen. Amen played good defense. Steph just hit some crazy shit. So run that thing back again this game, right? Play that same intensity level defensively, and then don't get jittery on offense. I think a big part of it was this is the first playoff game for these guys. Scoring the basketball is a lot harder to do when you're jittery than play good defense, right? Like, to me at least, they only scored 85 points. That was the lowest they scored all season. It just so happened to be the one playoff game they played.
That, and they hadn't played in over a week. Really, and most of those guys haven't played in really high-level competitive basketball in 2 weeks.
Yeah, they've been locked in the 2 seed for quite some time, Scott. So I do tend to agree with you. I mean, Alpi came to play as he does. He's a dog. Shooters can get a little streaky. And Jalen didn't have it. At the end of the day, Jalen didn't have it. Amen didn't have it. The defensive effort was there. Credit them for playing good defense, for holding this Golden State team under 100 points. If you do that every game throughout this 7-game series, I feel pretty good about things, right? Like, if you continue to play defense at that level, I don't think this team is going to score 85 points again. I don't.
No, and you mentioned Durant. I don't really want any part of Durant at this point. He's going to be 37 next year.
Exactly.
I want somebody who's going to be, at the very minimum, 3-4 years of prime basketball. Because, I think you're going to see upward trajectory for some of these guys. I think Amen Thompson's going to continue getting better. I think, obviously, Jabari has shown off the bench, that's kind of an intriguing thing, to see if that's something that can continue, the level of intensity. And, maybe you do some reshuffling at point guard. Maybe you get in another guy that's maybe 28, 29, 30 instead of, low to mid 30s. Fred VanVleet might just be past his prime at this point.
And that's okay. I mean, Fred's a big part of what this team is right now. Fred is a guy who helped turn the culture around. But I think you're right. When you look at growing this team forward, what type of point guard do you really need? Because when you look at the way that this team is built, Amen's a guy who needs to have the ball in his hand on the offensive side to be effective, but he's not really a point guard. Jalen is a guy who likes to have the ball in his hand. He's not much of a catch and shoot guy. He's more of a create off the dribble, step it back, hit three kind of guy. And Alpi is pretty darn good in creating offense himself in the high post and is a fantastic passer. So when I sit there and I look at how do I want to build this roster and what type of point guard do I need, I don't need a guy who's ball dominant. I need a guy who plays fantastic defense and can hit a spot up three, right? Like, that's what I'm looking for. Give me a Kirk Heinrich. Give me a Derek Fisher. Give me a Mario Chalmers. Like, those are the kind of guys that are needed when you've got ball dominant wing players like the Rockets have.
Do you feel like, I've mentioned him before, but the basketball crush I have is Clayton Jr. from Florida. Would you feel comfortable handing it over to him as that kind of point guard?
Ooh, that's a tough question, Scott. I think it depends on where you're drafting him. I don't know.
I mean, let's say he falls to where you are in wherever you are in the lottery.
Maybe, I don't know. It depends on the rest of the roster. I don't know. I like the idea of it because he's a shooter. Shooters can shoot. I worry on the you know what? Yeah, I'm okay with it. Guy played lockdown defense for the whole tournament, and he's a good shooter. And you know what? The character level's high. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, he's not a creator. He's not going to do that. He's not going to be Chris Paul.
But again, we don't need that.
Yeah, you don't need that. You don't need Steve Nash. You need, you mentioned Derek Fisher. I want somebody a little bit better than Fisher was, but that sort of player. I'm trying to think if we had anybody. Well, like if you want to go back to, Rockets lore, a Rafer Alston type.
Ugh. Rayford drove me fucking crazy. I hated Rayford Alston. Skip to Malu.
But the whole thing.
No, I understand what you're saying, but I was more of a Bob Sura kind of guy.
Oh, okay. I could see it. I could see where
His hair was always so perfect.
Now, were you in college during the Jimmer Fredette?
Yeah.
He officially retired from basketball today. I don't know if
he can't play no defense though.
Well, he's not going to be playing anywhere.
I'm just saying the Jimmer Fredette type is not exactly what we're looking for because Jimmer was not a lockdown defender.
No, of course not. I'm trying to, a guy that that ended up going to Memphis. Marcus Smart almost would be kind of like the kind of guy you'd want.
He's a great defender.
Not much of a shooter.
A little bit older though.
Not much of a shooter, but a lockdown defender. You need a guy who knows I'm the fourth or fifth option. I mean, that's basically what you want.
That's what made Nashville great, right? Like that guy could have gone for 30 anytime he wanted to, but he never had a season where he averaged more than like 18.9. So, yeah, you got to know when it's if they need me to score, I will, but I'd rather get my teammates going. That's the kind of guy that we're looking for. But speaking of getting going, Scott, the Houston Astros bats have woken up, at least enough. Gone are the days of one-run baseball. We've put up 4 and 5 in the last few days.
Yeah, I got as we speak tonight, we're up 3-1, the bottom of the 8th. Christian Walker is off of the interstate officially. Good for him. I'll have more to say on him later, but I like what I've seen from Zach DeZenzo, and I don't know if you saw this. They are actually hitting fly balls to Cam Smith in center.
I don't mind it. He's athletic, man.
Any way you can get those two bats in the lineup.
Yeah.
Like I've heard talking about maybe platooning DeZenzo with Rogers, getting him in at some second base. The
idea of having another guy like Dubon or like Marwin, right, who could play center, who could play left, who could play second, he could play. Why not? And in the way that he's swinging the stick, get your best 9 bats in the lineup. I've been saying that for a while.
Yeah, with Dubon, I like him in the 10 hole. Kind of holding down that bench, making sure it's not flying up in the air. I love the glove. I'm just not.
You're not a Dubon guy.
I'm not a fan of the bat. Rogers has been okay, not great. It's been okay. DeZenzo's gotten it going lately. Obviously, Walker's gotten it going lately. Hey, Yiner's got 2 more hits. He, another 2-hit game, he might get off the interstate.
Was this 110?
He's now like at 176.
Why? What is the interstate? 200?
Anything under 200. So basically, I-99.
We call that the Mendoza line where I'm from.
Well, yeah, he's not quite getting up there to where you can even mention the Mendoza line. But hey, give you another. He's 2 for 4 tonight, hitting 173 on the season.
He had a big RBI last night, late in the game.
Yeah,
just a little add-on. Yeah, at the end of the day, Scott, the Astros are notorious slow starters. They have been as a team, but I like the pitching has been pretty good. I know I had some early issues with the bullpen. They seem to have settled down minus Taylor Scott, and I think they finally stopped using Taylor Scott in key situations. The starting pitching's been pretty good. Wesnecki's been pretty good. It was
Gusto had a good outing tonight.
Gusto tonight pitched pretty well.
Hunter
Brown's been fantastic.
He's got over 20 consecutive scoreless innings going.
Fromber was rough the last time around. Blanco looked pretty good last night. It was a better Blanco start. He had been struggling. And then Hader's been unbelievable. And Brady's been pretty darn good too. So, at the end of the day, this still looks like a pretty good ball club to me, Scott.
Yeah, Brian King's been really good out of the bullpen. Kurt, except for the grand slam he gave up, has been, good on the season. Whitley looked pretty good in those first 2 innings.
He did. He had 4 Ks in that inning.
So I'm going, he might end up being that guy that you've been hunting for, to play that kind of,
Mm-hmm.
come in and bring some gas kind of role.
Yeah, he could be the fireman. His put away pitch looked fantastic. I mean, he struck out 4 in the same inning because the ball got past Yiner. That effort that Yiner gave on that strikeout was pretty lackluster. Didn't even get his ass down and try and bury it. He just gave it the old ole and allowed the runner on. But luckily, Whitley focused in and got the job done. But I'm a little disappointed in this Blue Jays team, Scott. Like I kind of thought they had some pretty good aspirations this season going into the year, and I feel like they're off to a pretty rough start as well.
Well, and what's rough for them is that you've got a ton of money locked into Guerrero, obviously, for the future. You've got a lot of money locked in on a shorter-term deal in Santander. Do you re-sign Bo Bichette? If you do that, that's going to be a pretty penny. So, and then you got Springer for at least another couple of years, I think. So you're pretty much, if you're them, you're locked into this roster that you currently have. And I don't know that that's good enough.
I mean, they've got Scherzer and Gossman on the mound. I don't think we faced either of them in this series.
We faced Gossman in the opener.
You're right. We did. We got to him pretty well. I don't know. I feel like the bats are coming around for us, the Astros. I expected maybe more from the Blue Jays this season. I still think they'll turn it around. I think this is early in the season for them. They've got a lot of guys with good track record. Springer's been better this year. I think maybe that's why I expected more from them, because Springer's kind of was such a fire starter for us, or when Springer was on, the team was on. So it's crazy to think that, he's doing well and they're not following suit.
Yeah, he's kind of found the fountain of 30. I don't know you can say the fountain of youth, the fountain of 30. But that's a tough division. I mean, the Orioles have kind of surprised me a little bit too, from being a little bit lackluster. But the whole thing, you look at that division, who out of that division really honestly sucks?
Truly no one. I don't know. I don't know about Rays baseball and say they suck, but I don't think anyone sucks. It's a good division. Yeah.
I mean, the Rays are not going to go anywhere, but the Rays always play better than what you think they should.
Very true. And almost, now they have a true home field advantage in that they're playing in this minor league ballpark that no one wants to be in. It's windy as shit out there. And I don't know. That's going to be, if they can find a way to harness that energy, that can be fun.
Although that was embarrassing when the Yankees went down there, and it was basically a home game for the Yankees.
It was all Yankees fans.
Yeah, I mean, it's their spring training home. I mean,
and also half of Tampa is retired New Yorkers.
Yeah, well, you can't. There's nothing you can do about that, obviously, unless you want to relocate. But I mean, I don't know. The long-term future of baseball in Tampa, their stadium deal fell through. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think they're going to repair the Trop. So what do you do?
I don't know, man. I don't think it's a great spot for baseball personally. I at least not where they've got it. In St. Pete, the traffic down there is terrible. I don't know. Like, as much as Florida is a good baseball state, I don't know if it's a good Major League Baseball state, right? It's such a retiree transplant community that most people already have a team. And in today's day and age where you can stream, you don't have to follow whoever you move to, because you can watch your home team or your team that you grew up watching. So it's hard to convince someone who retired and moved to Miami to be a Marlins fan, or someone who retired and moved to Tampa to be a a Rays fan when you grew up in Cleveland and you're a Guardians fan, or you grew up in Boston and you're a Red Sox fan. Like, you're not giving that up. So it's tough to think that you got to give up on it, because there's a young generation of fans I'm sure would hate to lose that team. But they've been there for what, 20 plus years now, and I don't know if they've really gained any traction.
Well, and they don't keep anybody long enough to really root for. I mean, the best thing you could do for kids is keep somebody 5, 10, 15 years that you could kind of build an affinity for. I mean, you think about us, I grew up, you mentioned Bill Dorr in a previous podcast. I grew up watching him. You probably grew up more on the Bagwell Biggio, pair.
Berkman.
Guys you could grow up and basically grow old with, and then you can compare future generations to.
But at the same time, the game has changed. And I don't know how many of those type of guys are going to be around anymore. So I think the Houston Astros are a great example of that not happening, right? Other than Jose Altuve, no one from the 2017 core is still an Astro. They're all still playing baseball, but only Jose Altuve remains. So yes, they gave out the one deal, but guys want so much money that it's impossible to keep these people long term. You've got to take advantage of the window you've got, draft well, make good moves, and hope that you pick right on which guys you bank on for the long term.
Yeah, and I heard them talking about this on the air, and they were talking about specifically Hunter Brown. So here was your issue on Hunter Brown. So Hunter Brown becomes a free agent after the 2028 season. Now, do you know who his agent is?
Scotty B.
Yeah, that's him. So if you're Scotty B, what's your advice to Hunter Brown at this point?
It depends. Am I Scott Boras in a world where I care about my client, or am I Scott Boras in a world where I'm just trying to get him the most money as possible?
You're the actual Scott Boras.
Don't sign any extension. Wait till free agency. Get your bag.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like, for instance, if you would you say that over the last calendar year, has he been as good as Corbin Burns?
Yeah.
So did you see what contract Corbin Burns got from Arizona?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
6 years, $35 million a season. And that was him taking a hometown discount.
Yeah, I'd give him that right now.
Because he's from Phoenix.
But I'd give Hunter Brown a 6-year, $35 million a year extension. Because by the time that extension I'd give it to him right now. Because by the time 2028 comes around, that's now a great deal.
Right. But if you're him, the Orioles offered Burns 4 years, $45 million AAV, and he turned it down. To me, I think, especially if you fast forward this to 2028, $40 million AAV is like the basement of where Brown's going to be.
Which is why I say offer it now.
Well, but then if you're the Astros, I mean, you're taking on a lot of risk. But the point is that the time to talk to Brown would have been this time last year. But let's consider what was happening at this point.
He pitched like shit this time last year.
Exactly. So that's the problem with all these guys. Like, would you offer Pena a long-term deal now?
Yes.
But then if you're Pena, would you take a long-term deal now?
No, because what I'm offering him is not going to be what he thinks he's worth. This is year 4 of Jeremy Pena now, right? So right. I think I have a pretty good idea of who you are, Jeremy, and you're a very good defensive shortstop, and you're an okay hitter who can get streaky. I'll give you $20 million a year for 6 years. Here's 6 years, $120 million. Will you sign this?
I mean, maybe he does. Maybe.
But that's what I'm offering if I'm Dana, right? Like, I have a pretty good idea who Jeremy Pena is. In a world where you can't just go fucking roid up and become Brady Anderson anymore, you are going to be Jeremy Pena. I've seen you at your high when you got streaky and it's a World Series MVP. I've seen you at your low, and it's when you went like 81, 85 straight games without hitting a home run. All the way through, you played pretty good defense, and you still hit for some singles here along the way, even in your tough time. I'll give you 15 to 20 million, somewhere in that range.
Well, what's funny is that he's now worth more than a win, according to B War. So I mean,
he's played phenomenal defensively this year.
He is off to a good start. I mean, he's probably, I would say, conservatively, if he continues his pace, will be a 5-6 win player. That's
6-win player is insane.
Well, and you know what? You know who he is. You know who he reminds me of. You remember Andrelton Simmons?
Yeah, great defensive shortstop.
Great defensive shortstop. Decent offensively. Not great. Not great.
Playable.
Certainly playable until he went to the Angels, which seems to be like that seems like a vortex, or people go to die. But that's kind of the point, is that in order to keep these guys, long term, you have to sign them so insanely early that right now you'd have to sign Cam Smith now.
Pretty much, yeah.
And I don't know. How confident are you that he is going to be let's say, even a 4 and 5 win player?
50-50 right now.
I mean,
maybe 60-40, but like there's still so much up in the air. Am I high on him? Yeah. I see a lot, right? But like, how many players had a great rookie year, came back, everybody adjusted to them, and they didn't adjust to what people did to them, right? Like, I've seen Cam Smith make some good in-season adjustments so far, but it's still April. He's still not hitting 250, but I think he's been playing a lot better lately. He's turning on the ball more. But I do agree with you. Like, you can let Cam Smith play this full season, and you probably have to make the decision on him in the offseason if you want to keep him long term.
Yeah, and that's what makes life hard. Because if you go the other way, we could have made the move on Yiner coming into this season based on the last two. And how would you be feeling about that one right about now?
Pretty frustrated, but also this could play well for us in the long-term signing of Yiner.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and I think he'll get back, but I think there's a hole in his game, and pitchers have found a way to exploit it.
He's a reacher. He gets out in front too much, and he's gotten away with it because of the Crawford boxes really a lot, but he is very often out in front and kind of just reaching.
Yeah. And swinging at balls in the dirt, that kind of thing. So it's tough. I mean, Spencer Arrighetti is another guy. Do you want to sign him after the season?
Probably.
But,
but that's also part of the problem, Scott, is you're locking yourself in to this roster, right? Like, when you think, like, I have to sign all these guys long-term now because I will lose them later if I don't. Now, this is the roster, right? Like, unless you trade people away, and you'll probably, lose out on some talent in that, you're just committing to the next 6-7 years. This is it. We are playing with these guys, right?
Yeah. And you're hoping you get some reinforcement in the minors, that it can kind of plug some holes in the roster, which is what they were able to do in the early part of this run. I mean, you had, obviously, Springer and Correa come up first. I mean, not counting Altuve. Then you get Bregman, and you get Alvarez and Tucker. So you kind of had that pipeline. So I don't know that pipeline's there right now.
Is it crazy to you that they're rather play Cam Smith in center and DeZenzo in right than just put Altuve back at second and play Smith in right and DeZenzo in left?
That's crazy. The other crazy thing is they really must not like Chas McCormick.
He played today, but he already got pinch hit for in the 6th.
And he had a hit today. So, I don't know.
Yeah, he's pissed off somebody in that order.
He was microwaving fish in the break room.
That's a no. You can't do that. He's probably the team's. Some of the miners used to like stop at like a truck stop or whatever, right?
Right.
And everybody gets their food. You get back on the bus. I would guarantee you, he's the kind of guy who's getting like fucking tuna fish sandwiches from Subway and bringing it back on the bus. And that's part of the problem is he's a tuna fish guy. No one wants to smell that shit on the bus.
Yeah. Well, remember, he's the banana pudding guy.
He's the demand of what?
Remember that but Dusty Baker used to always talk about how you would get him a banana pudding when they would go to New York.
Oh, God. He's just so full of demands. I don't know. I really don't get it. I don't get what happened to Chaz. This guy just like fell off the face of the earth. And that's another reason why it's tough to decide on guys so early, right? Like after that really good season for Chaz at 2023, where he's a 270-something hitter, hitting 20 bombs, you're thinking, let's extend this guy right now. Let's go ahead. And then look what's happened since then.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
I mean, if I went back, I could probably find the audio of you saying, I think we should extend Chaz McCormick.
Yeah, I mean, you probably could. And you got the same kind of deal with, let's say, Brian Abreu. You could extend them, but I wouldn't want to because relievers are so fungible. It's rough. What you kind of have to hope is that guys like Forrest Whitley can solidify that spot and you can let guys like Abreu go.
I guess the real question, Scott, this is even something to think about long term, is how long is this feasible? How long is this current system where you have to decide so early on guys or else you lose them to the top 2 or 3 teams in free agency? How long is that a feasible way to operate?
Well, I mean, we've seen teams do it. They can't do it for very long. Our window was much longer than anybody else's. But you see teams like, the Royals in the 2000 teens, kind of had things going for a bit. I mean, Tampa
But
Bay.
not the same then, right? Like,
no, it's not.
Signed a $760 million contract.
Well, what you're doing is, in your cases like teams like that, is you're doing what they did with Bobby Witt, where they went 12 years, $240 million, and you're just guessing that he's going to be a superstar. Now, are they guessing right? I don't know. I mean, you look at the Padres signing, Fernando Tatis Jr. to the Apocalypse. I mean, that's a gamble. It makes sense, but that's what you're left with. Is you're left with these teams having to decide really early and guessing correct.
Yeah, I mean, and if you don't, it's crippling. You're literally, if you gave out one of these huge ass contracts and you guessed wrong on a 12-year, $20 million a year contract, that's crippling, Scott. Like, really tough foul just happened, but we'll keep an eye on the game. But yeah, it's insane. But let's keep the train rolling. I forgot until you reminded me today. Fucking NFL draft is tomorrow, Scott. Like, what I feel like is normally a huge hyped event, somehow, I don't know, has it flown under the radar a little bit this year, or am I just tuned out?
No, I think it has. And I think, game over. Thank God. The Astros win again. I would point out a couple of things. Number one, I would point out that your Cougs made it all the way to the finals, which is pretty much late March, early April. I point out that obviously Astros season starting. I point out that the Rockets are a playoff team for the first time since, since the bubble.
We're paying attention instead of looking forward.
So that's part of it. The other part of it is, what are the Texans really desperate for?
I don't, maybe offensive line help, but like even desperate's not the right word.
But are you getting giddy about an offensive lineman?
The guy from Texas, Banks, if we could trade up and get him, but again, it involves trading. I would get giddy if we traded up and got him.
Well, but I'm just saying in general. I mean, the idea of, I mean, it could be, Joe Thomas, reincarnated.
I get fucking pumped about Joe Thomas Jr., bro.
Tony Baselli, rookie Tony Baselli, not Texans Tony Baselli. I mean, offensive linemen just don't they don't captivate the casual fan. Now you start talking wide receiver, you start talking peak defender, then you start, obviously quarterback, then you start really getting people's attention.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I definitely hear you. And I wonder, too, is this quarterback class part of the reason? Is this quarterback class just weak? And is that why we're just not talking about it as much versus one where you've got, multiple guys who could be number one overall picks? Who's going to go number one? Who's going to move up and take a quarterback? I just feel like that hasn't been part of the conversation. No one's talked about moving up to go get one of these guys. I haven't heard any chatter on that level.
No, and I think Cam Ward is the number one overall pick. I think in almost any other year he wouldn't be. But teams need quarterbacks. Titans suck. They picked Mayonnaise Boy a couple of years ago. He hasn't panned out. So here comes Cam Ward. Now, can Cam Ward be successful in the NFL? Maybe. I mean, yeah. I mean, stranger things have happened. But I'm not a fan of Shedeur Sanders. I mean, I think he's okay, but I think he's way overhyped. And so what are you left with? You're left with Jackson Dart. Okay. You're left with Milrow, who I don't know.
Shao or Shu is getting a lot of hype right now.
Can Milrow even throw a football?
No. Well, he throws a good deep ball, but he can't hit the underneath shit.
So is he going to be like, a faster Anthony Richardson?
Probably. But Tyler Shao is a guy who's getting a lot of run. He played at Tech, Oregon, and now Louisville. But some people think he'll be the second quarterback taken.
Well, I have no problem with identifying a guy who I think, could be a good player down the road. And if a team wants to pick Milrow and think, okay, maybe we can let him sit for a year, work on his mechanics, okay, that makes sense. But any team that thinks that he's going to be their quarterback, like, I've heard, rumors of maybe Pittsburgh taking him. That would be ridiculous. They just got rid of Justin Fields because he wasn't a good enough thrower of the football. What do they think they're getting?
I don't think he'll go in the first round. I do not. I've heard some of the Shedeur Sanders to the Pittsburgh Steelers chatter, and I think that's a realistic possibility because if he doesn't go early, there's a good chance he falls. Because if you look at the draft, after like the fifth or sixth pick, really, who truly needs a quarterback, right? Like a lot of the position is filled throughout the league. Like look around the league, like who truly is quarterback needy? I'd say the New York Giants, the Tennessee Titans, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, Russell Wilson just fell off his couch. He's with the Giants. He and Jameis Winston both. I mean, that's a quarterback combination that's really going to get after it. The only other team that I could see taking him if he falls out of the top 5 is New Orleans.
Yeah, I think New Orleans needs a quarterback, right? They truly don't have anybody. Derek Carr's on the last leg at this point. I don't think Rattler showed you anything last year that was worth not taking someone if they're available. But again, you look around the league, like a lot of these teams are not in a position of need when it comes to quarterback. So there's no one trying to trade up. If he doesn't go early, he's going to fall. And then there's a good chance he just falls right into the Steelers' lap, and it might be a perfect spot for him.
So then, of course, you got the specter of the 41-year-old ghost dark retreat participant who still has not chosen a team. I could see, Derek Carr, I think his shoulder's jacked up, so he's probably going to be out next year. New Orleans actually might be an underrated situation for him because he's really a year-to-year guy anyway. So, You throw Rodgers in there, you get a year out of him. Maybe Derek Carr comes back. Maybe he doesn't. Or at the very worst, you punt to a better quarterbacks class in 2026.
Yeah, I mean, I just, why would anyone want to sign up for the Aaron Rodgers experience right now? Like that's the last ride I want to go on. Maybe I'd sing a different tune if, God forbid, knock on wood, this isn't true, that something happened to my starting quarterback and I had to go get somebody off the couch. Like, okay, I could do worse than Aaron Rodgers, but like if I'm a coach, and especially like the Saints just hired a rookie head coach. Do you want to bank your first year on Aaron Rodgers and not be able to set your culture and not be able to set things up the way that you want to because Aaron Rodgers is going to do whatever the fuck Aaron Rodgers wants to do?
There's not a whole lot of choices there. I mean, you mentioned Spencer Rattler. I don't know if anybody's really going to be, excited to see him at the helm. I mean, you draft Shedeur Sanders. Maybe he's good. Who knows? Maybe you go after Jackson Dart. Maybe you go after, the other Louisville quarterback. I don't know. I mean, there's not a whole lot there that I feel confident in.
Tend to agree with you. So let's take it from a Texans perspective, Scott. What are your Texans predictions? Do they move up and go get a tackle? Do they trade back out of the first round and collect some extra capital? Do they just sit tight and go best player available? What do you see happening?
I'm hearing chatter that they want to move up, but I think Banks is the only guy that they're going to move up for. If they're going to move, I see them moving back. I think that there's going to be a team that is hungry for maybe Milroe or another quarterback at the bottom of the first round, and maybe a team high up in the second round wants to move back in. Maybe the Giants. Maybe they think, hey, let's move back into the first round and pick up a developmental quarterback. Okay. I could see them doing that. And then I could see the Texans maneuvering from there, moving up and down, second, third round, whatever. I hate the idea of picking a lineman because we have to have a lineman. I think that's a recipe for disaster.
I agree with you.
That's how you get into the Juice Scruggs and Kenyon Green business. I would much rather sit there. My goal coming out of this draft is to do what you did last year. Come out with 2 good football players, maybe 3, regardless of position. And let's go.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think if they could be on the offensive side of the ball right now, I think maybe that's my preference. Defense is pretty set. You've got some playmakers there. If you can get a linebacker, I'd love a linebacker. If you got a receiver, I'd love a receiver. If you got a good lineman, I'd love a good lineman. Heck, even a good tight end, a good pass-catching tight end, I'd be okay with that.
I'd love a good running back. I'd love a good running back to replace Dameon Pierce, but you can get those really at any time in the draft, I think.
Yeah. Or even, as Arian Foster has shown, undrafted free agents.
Oh, my stance has always been you pick up an undrafted free agent running back every single year. Doesn't matter what your running back room looks like. You pick up at least a guy every single year, because you never know when you're going to strike gold. Because, you're not going to get Hall of Famers as undrafted free agents, but just the number of guys in the league that have been good as running backs who have not been drafted is just way too high to ignore.
Running backs and defensive backs, right? Like, I think those are 2 positions that just tend to get overlooked, especially at the college level where the receiving talent is so different across the board. It's tough to grade some of these defensive backs. If you're the slot guy and you're playing in a lesser conference, you're just getting overlooked.
Yeah, Petey Fagans, undrafted free agent, made it to a Pro Bowl, at least 1 Pro Bowl. So I'd like to see that. Tight end would be nice. I think a speed guy at wide receiver, but that speed guy at wide receiver doesn't have to come in the first round. You could get guys like that in the third and fourth round. Because if you're talking like just Will Fuller straight ahead, go out and go get it.
I think the only receiver, I mean, Golden, if he's there at 25 or 26, whatever we have, I'd be happy with that pick. Former UH Cougar Matthew Golden, before he left for other pastures. But yeah, other than that, I don't know if I really want to reach for wide receiver. That's another thing. I don't want to reach for wide receiver. I don't want to be, oh, we need speed, we need this. I don't ever want to pick from a place of need. Like, I get you going to the draft with wants, but when you truly need something, that leads to reaches. And you're right. That's how you ended up with Xavier Su'a-Filo as your starting left guard for way too long.
Guy I like is Beck out of TCU, obviously, because I'm a Horned Frog. He's a guy, but he might end up being a second rounder, which might be a little too high for a player of his type, because he's more like he would be like a Christian Kirk, kind of a slot kind of guy. You know how the New England always had, the shorter white guy in the slot for, darn near 20 years. It was somebody. It was Julian Edelman. It was who were the other guys?
Wes
Welker, and then there was
Amendola.
Yeah, there we go. They're your slower, shorter, quicker white guys.
Twitchy is the term that they used to use.
And Beck might be that kind of guy.
Dylan Brooks. Sorry, it's getting physical, Scott. It is getting physical in Toyota Center right now. Someone just shoved Steven Adams to the ground. They're going to regret that.
Yeah, that's probably not what you want to do.
Dude, if anybody I'm getting in a fight with on the Rockets, Steven Adams is the last one that I'm picking.
Him or Dylan Brooks. I don't know that I'd want to mess with him either.
Dylan Brooks, to me, might be like the guy, like, you punch him in the face, and then, like, he shows up, like, 3 hours later, like, with a bat to beat the shit out of you.
Well, it's funny if you want to go back to Rockets, Rockets lore of past. I was watching one of those video podcasts where they were interviewing Vernon Maxwell.
I don't know.
I don't know if you heard this story, but apparently Akeem Olajuwon slapped the shit out of him in the locker room.
Yes, I did.
Akeem is not somebody. I mean, he's kind of gentle giant in his older years, but when he was younger, he was a hothead. I would not want to mess with that guy.
Yeah, Akeem, and he got the length too, right? You're not getting in on Akeem. He's keeping you at a distance as well with that reach.
Because those when they had him and Sampson in that game, I don't know. Have you seen highlights of them beating the Lakers to get to the NBA Finals? Where
Yes.
Sampson hits that last second shot?
Yes.
So Akeem was tossed from that game. And Sampson came pretty damn close to getting tossed. So they might have been without both Twin Towers for the remainder of that game. But Akeem was tossed, and he fully deserved it. I mean, he went rogue, as they say.
Fair enough, Scott. Well, it sounds like Akeem used to be a little bit of a horse's ass at times, and I think it's time for us to name our horse's ass of the week. Who do you got, Scott?
So I actually saved this one in my back pocket for a while. So I'm going to go with the Astros for two reasons. Number one, I stumbled on this, and I think I sent this to you. I don't know if you read it. The Astros are one of only 3 teams in Major League Baseball.
Now it's down to just one.
We're the only one. So both Baltimore and Washington are doing it. So we're the only team that is not offering a direct-to-consumer streaming package. So let's let that sit for a second. But I was able to go to Saturday night's game. Did you actually catch the pictures I sent to you?
Yeah.
I sent a picture of the price list. I don't know if you were able to.
It's not fun.
So for domestic beer tip, I don't know if you remember the price. You want to take a stab at that price?
God, I think it was like $15.
I think it was $17.99.
Oh God,
Now, if you wanted an import, it
who
was
can afford that?
It was only $18.99, Tim. Only one more dollar
Wow.
for an import.
For one more dollar, you have the Modelo.
You know, yeah, and you know what's crazy is they usually in Houston there's lots of places that have St. Arnold's as an import. It's like it's bottled in Houston. Two Rice grads who started this company, and they're going to consider them to be yeah. So I got a burger, fries, and a Coke.
Ooh,
You want to guess what my total tag was on that?
What kind of Coke was it? The large
Bottle? It was a bottle Coke.
bottle of Coke. Okay. Burger basket's like $20. I'm gonna guess like $28.99.
Damn, you're close. It was actually, I think, like $27.99. So yeah, you were close.
I think it's like $19.99 for the burger basket.
Yeah, it was pretty. Yeah, that was, and it was a half-pound burger. So I mean, it was, it's a burger, and the fries were pretty good. But I can't believe, I could buy any 6-pack of beer, any that I want, for $17.99. You can go to the Specs Total Wine. You could get like the most expensive crap they got, and you could probably afford to buy cheese, to go with it.
When I was in college, we used to crush a water bottle and fill it up with liquid and sneak said water bottle into the stadium and have some rum and cokes on the third baseline. And I used to think it was like such a scumbag move. Now, I feel like it's the only way to get drunk at a game.
Oh, no.
Like, how else can people afford this?
Oh, no. See, back in the day, the Rangers, I think, still do this. Do they allow you to bring in plastic containers?
I mean, you could use, I don't know, we used to be able to bring a sandwich, chips, and a drink to the Astros games.
So back when we were in college, they would let you bring in a plastic container, but back then, beer was not sold in a plastic container. So we got the idea, and we almost marketed, called Bag-O. So basically a bag of beer. Just bring in just a bag of beer. And so the idea we had was like you make like a Ziploc bag, you get like Velcro around your stomach, you Velcro the bag, to your stomach, throw the shirt over it. Nobody's the wiser. You get a freezer bag of beer. I mean, that's
warm body beer. That sounds terrible.
But we could never get it to work because it would always leak. So it just never got off.
Yeah.
It was one of our money. We had the other idea we had was the man chair, which would just be a recliner that you kind of set up to a septic tank, so you could have a toilet on the chair, so you don't have to.
That was a Simpsons episode.
You don't have to get up, So yeah, I had one called the those pens that had the 4 different inks that you could press down.
I do.
I had an idea of doing that with condiments. One is ketchup, one's mayonnaise, one's relish, mustard.
Not bad.
Yeah, we call it the Conda pen.
I don't hate it.
We had another one called Elastipants. That would be anywhere between a size 28 and a size 40. Just
wow.
We were even going to have Ted Kennedy be the spokesperson. When I entered Congress, I had a size 28 waist, but over the years, I put on a few pounds. But with Elastipants, I still have the same pants.
I think the adventure of the Elastipants could be a horse's ass this week, Scott.
Well, yeah, we did. It never got out of the concept phase.
Never made that prototype, huh?
Yeah, no.
All right, well, that's a good one. The pricing is outrageous, and the direct-to-consumer option is sadly still unavailable. So I don't disagree with you there. My horse's ass this week is a man who plays for the in-state rivals. This man came into the league as a center fielder, is now such a fat fucking piece of shit. He can't do anything but DH. And even as a DH, he doesn't do the H part because he's 0 for his last fucking 41. Scott Peterson, come on down, you fat fuck. 0 for 41. I gotta think I could luck into a hit in 41 at bats.
I think what's sad, Tim, is there was a time in the offseason I was like, you play Jordan more than left. Would you like some Jock Peterson? Maybe now, not so much.
Yeah, and then he was such a douche when he got signed, saying that like the AL West runs through Arlington. Like, you're 0 for the last 41, bro. Like, people are talking about, will you break Chris Davis's 0 for 54 stretch as a record? Yeah. How's it going? How's your fucking season going? Oh, and you're literally unplayable in the outfield, even though you came up as a center fielder. What does that say about you? We have a guy who works at the local municipal golf course, Scott. And this is a guy who was an assistant pro at like a country club. And now I guess, some things happen in the career and now he's at the muni level. I don't know if it's a demotion, but based on the fact that this guy goes out partying and forgets to wake up in time to come open the clubhouse for 7 a.m. tee times, he's treating it like a demotion. And he's drank himself into about an extra 35 pounds. That's what Jock Peterson looks like. This looks like a guy who went on like an alcoholic binger and he just weighs like 40 pounds more than he used to because he can't stop fucking laying off the ride.
Well, that sounds a lot like the Andrew Jones story.
Like who?
Andrew Jones.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much, him in L.A. is pretty much the Jock Peterson story. But yeah, 0 for 41. I saw that today and I was just like, wow.
That's rough.
The path not taken. Thank God.
What was Bregman's stretch where he's like 1 for 27 or 1 for when he got his first time up when he got started with this? It was a long stretch where he was like 1 for something.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what it was, but
Kyle Tucker had a tough stretch.
You knew he was going to hit eventually.
Yeah, I mean, Peterson will get a hit again, okay? But my main thing is you came in running your fucking mouth and you're a defensive liability, even though you came into this league as a center fielder who could make plays. And now you've let yourself go to the point where you can't get a single hit over your last 41 at-bats and you still run your fucking mouth.
Yeah, that's not a good look.
Agreed. All right, Scott, you want to go for some good looks? Let's tip a cap or two. I think it's time to be a little bit more positive in life, I think is what the wife would say.
I mentioned going to the game on Saturday. You have to tip my cat to some family friends. They have season tickets in the club section. That is some nice place to watch baseball.
That's nice living.
That is nice. The seats have cushions, Tim. They have cushions.
It's nice.
They
got different food there.
Yeah, that's where I got the $28 hamburger basket. So, that's something. But really great seats. We were actually in front of the box where Biggio usually sits in. Unfortunately, he didn't come to that game. But they had guys throwing out Cracker Jacks from their private box. So we got some Cracker Jacks. So, hey, freebies. Can't turn it down. Of course, part of me is like, thinking like, okay, these club seats are, how much? And here are the rich people getting freebies. If I hadn't seen any kind of a microcosm of what America looks like these days, yeah, pretty much freaking it. But, and I'll have to say that in that game, I don't know if you watched that game, Tim.
I did. Saturday I didn't. No, which one were you at?
This is a Saturday game.
Yeah, I didn't watch Saturday.
Okay, so Saturday, Christian Walker ties it up 2-2 with a dinger, which, my brother-in-law, whose also name is Tim, was saying, man, this guy's got to get out of this slump. Next pitch, gone. So, ninth inning, I felt bad for Hader. He throws a pitch low and away, slider. The guy just kind of sticks his bat out. launches it into short right field, lands on the line. It's a seeing eye double. So I think Haderman punches the next guy out. And then the next one, it's a pop fly over Walker. So Walker's running backwards like this and makes a basket catch. And I was thinking, what are the odds that John Singleton or Jose Abreu would have been standing at the end of that play?
0.
So Christian Walker, you get my Schlitz Light Player of the Game award for that particular effort. That one, and of course, he Yuli Gurriel, former Astros great, makes the final out of that game. So great effort all the way around. That was Wisniewski on the hill, looked pretty damn good. You mentioned Taylor Scott. He actually pitched 2 scoreless innings in that one. So, blind pig finds mud every now and then. So, hey, so it was a good effort all the way around and lovely, lovely seats.
I am so happy to hear that you had a great time, Scott. There's nothing like a good time at the ballpark. Like, it literally is the best way to spend a night. I can't think of a better way to spend a day than going to a baseball game. So glad to hear that you had a great night. I too had a wonderful Saturday night. I'm going to tip my cap to just the whole crew at Music Hall at Fair Park. Let me tell you about the experience that we get to have when we go to our place, Scott. We roll in about 6 o'clock. We check in. We were seated at a lovely table. We were double dating this time. We're then led to the salad bar, great salad bar, soup bar. Then they got a carving station. They've got a dessert table. Then from there, we make our way to our seats and enjoyed Mamma Mia. Wonderful time. And, I'm so thankful that we still have an opportunity, to see these shows and to take in this culture and to enjoy Mamma Mia. It was great. It was a great time. Tip my cap to my wife for continuing to line these events up. Tip my cap to Music Hall for putting on great events and for having the buffet. Like, it's so much less stressful to have your dinner and your show all at the same place. Like, parking is easier, getting there is easier. All of it becomes easier when you don't have to worry about getting from a restaurant to the show when you're just already there.
Yeah, we did. We saw a secondary hat tip here at the Alley Theater. We had the last Sherlock Holmes. Todd Waite has been a member of the Alley Theater acting troupe for 25 years. And he just gave his final official performance as a member of the troupe. Now, he says, he's going to do some occasional stuff, but he's not necessarily always my cup of tea, but 25 years of acting, 4 or 5 plays a year, that's got to be grueling work. And, he's been on top of his game for over 2 decades. So hat tip to him as well.
Hey, job well done. Solving the case of who's going to play the next lead, I guess. I don't know. It was a Sherlock Holmes reference. All right, Scott. It's time to call out the pieces of shit in the world. Scumbag of the week. There's so many choices lately. We're trying to not go political. What do you got for us?
I got to go political, Tim.
Not
social. Well, it's more social than political, I guess. So I have to read this quote to you. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, as you know, we just lost, a Pope Francis on Monday. Definitely the best Pope in my lifetime.
Mine as well.
By far. Because, the only popes I remember are Pope John Paul II and Benedict. And Benedict John Paul was a really good Pope, but Benedict.
A little conservative for me.
But Benedict was just kind of there. He didn't really do
John
much.
Paul also helped cover up a lot of sex crimes.
He did. No, and no Pope is perfect. But, and I know, I don't know if you saw too much what happened with Francis, but in his youth, they had a coup attempt, and where he was from in Argentina, and he ended up hiding some people, but even he admitted he didn't stand up to them as much as he could have. So he apologized on behalf of the church, to the Catholics in Argentina for not doing more. So, like I said, nobody's perfect. But here is what the notorious MTG said on Monday after this happened. Today, there were major shifts in global leaderships. Evil is being defeated by the hand of God. So, in order to explain this, basically what she's saying is that the Pope was evil, and so God took him out. Yeah, I don't even have words, Tim. She could have come out later and she could have said, well, I wasn't really talking about him. I was talking about something else. She hasn't clarified her quote, which to me tells me she's standing by it 100%. And there are very few people in this world, I could probably list them on one hand, of people that I could say that I hate, or the people that I think are actually evil, that I would call evil. Most people are people that I disagree with, people that have a different vision for America than I do, that I think are 1,000% wrong, but I would never call them evil, and I would never say I hate them. MTG has gone to that place. As I said in my piece, I didn't say she was an enemy of mankind. She's self-identifying as an enemy of mankind. I didn't say she was evil. He's self-identifying as evil. And yeah, she's a troll. And yeah, this means that she gets attention. But, and I mentioned this in text, I don't know if you were really cognizant of what happened when Sinead O'Connor did this on Saturday Night Live.
I've listened to a whole podcast about it.
And she had a legitimate beef with the church. However, ripping up a picture of the Pope really didn't do much for her or her career. I guess, if she wanted to make that stand and wanted to, to take that chance, I applaud her. I don't know that MTG really gets how many Catholics there are who are MAGA, who are going to be, I'm sorry, this is just way.
But again, she's in a district where it doesn't matter. And that's the problem with our political system is like we've given power to people who can only be taken out by her district, right? Like she is a local representative in the national government. Like she's one of 300. Like she's not really that powerful, but she has found a way to make herself powerful by being a giant piece of shit and saying things like that. Like, I'm sorry, her district's not a Catholic area. Like, they don't care. They probably believe Catholics are evil and they follow the will of the Pope over the president. Like, they're probably one of those people. They're probably fucking KKK members for all I know. I don't. I'm just saying they don't care. It's, Trump could say the same thing and it still won't create the national stir that it would have when Sinead O'Connor did it. Because she's a fucking liberal. And liberals are giant pieces of shit to these people. So it doesn't matter what they say. She could have attacked the Pope and it would have been bad. If she got up there and said, oh, I love the Pope, he's amazing, I love being Catholic, then it would have been like, oh, she worships the Pope instead of, God himself, or, oh, she's fine covering up for the abuse of the church, whatever it is. They would have found a problem with it. These people always have an issue, always. And they'll do the exact same thing that they have an issue with and no issue. Because, again, Marjorie Taylor Greene is evil. Defeating evil across the world would be like Marjorie Taylor Greene went away. That's what defeating evil is. Not the Pope, not the most benevolent, caring, understanding, modernizing Pope we've ever seen in the last 200 years, since the fucking papal schism. He is the best Pope since there were 3 at one time.
Well, and think about this. Like, if I don't care about politics or religion, but could you imagine celebrating the death of the Dalai Lama?
Sadly, yes, I can imagine a world where these fucks will celebrate that death.
I mean, it's just, I don't get, and the whole thing is that what scares me as a Catholic is what's coming next, because
Yes.
Francis was the one who was standing up for the marginalized, the poor, for the migrant. He was the one who was standing up for these people worldwide, not just America. He was standing up for these people everywhere. And there are forces within the church. Like I know there's a cardinal from Hungary, for instance, who is one of the favorites to possibly be the Pope, who is anti-migrant. I don't see how you can be anti-migrant when you're worshiping somebody who was a migrant. That kind of that boggles my mind. But my hope is that the church at least gives it to somebody who's going to continue to carry that torch, or at least won't extenuate that flame, even if they don't, do more than he did. At least keep it going.
I hope so. I mean, he put like 80% of the Cardinals there, so you would hope that they would want to continue that path. I hope, like, I would love to have an African Pope. Like, let's elevate someone who's truly seen what the world needs, right? Let's get someone in a position who's seen impoverished people affected by the word of God and can help motivate them, right? Like, I'd love to see that, but I also can't imagine the fucking mental shitstorm that will happen for these people if, God forbid, there was a black pope. Could you imagine that for them?
I know, no kidding. I mean,
like, that's their fucking nightmare.
Well, the thing is,
the globalists have infected the papacy.
Well, but have you realized this, that, with the exception of the schism that you mentioned, John Paul II was the first non-Italian pope. I mean, that's back in the late 70s, early 80s. I mean, this is how, I guess, resistant to change the church is.
Well, I liked what we had. It's been a good reign. I don't know what else to say. I don't know if the hat tip for the Pope would have been appropriate, but I'm definitely worried. I'm with you, and I think Marjorie Taylor Greene is a gigantic piece of human excrement.
We're agreed there.
I also can't stay away. Frequent flyer Ken Paxton has filed another lawsuit against a place that I frequent often, that I just gave a hat tip to, Music Hall at Fair Park. You want to know why, Scott?
Oh, I shudder to think.
Because you're not allowed to bring your second gun into Broadway shows. I don't know. I don't know in what world we need people fucking armed to watch Mamma Mia, but it's such a big deal that we're suing over it. This is private property. It's, we've been through this before when he sued over the Texas State Fair, and I believe lost, but now we're going to do it for a building inside the fairgrounds. And I just can't stand it with this guy. Like, this is our money. He's wasting our money. You don't need a fucking gun everywhere you go. This isn't the Wild West, okay? Like, there's metal detectors as soon as you walk in. Every single person goes through a metal detector. That makes me feel safe. Having a bunch of fucking jamopes with Glocks does not make me feel safe. Especially at one play when I walked out and someone goes, "This woke fucking bullshit was ridiculous." That's not who I need fucking strapped. You just take shots at the actors if you don't like what you're seeing? Like, what are we doing? This is so asinine to me that this is what you think good governance is. This is just so frustrating, because all it is he's going to make a Senate run, and he's just trying to get his name in the news as much as possible. And between him and Adolf Hitler, they're just fucking lighting our state funds on fire, and I'm just so over it. We have destroyed the educational system for our children. We have made it so you can bring a gun everywhere, but you can't, get safe health care as a woman. Like, it's just, the government of this state is so broken, and yet people still cheer it on, and it's a test of your sanity, Scott. Like, living in Texas sometimes truly is a test of your sanity, of like, people that you thought were like smart people make good points and then go turn around and vote Republican. You're just like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Well, and what kills me about Ken Paxton, he's been under indictment for what, 10 years?
Minimum.
What's happened to that trial? Is he the Rosenbergs? What are we doing?
Trump was president for a good chunk of it.
Well, what kills me, and that's where, Trump sends out his tweet on his shitty little app. I was talking about, well, we can't guarantee due process to everybody. It's like, you have gotten more due process than you deserve.
It's also in the Constitution that you are guaranteed due process, dumb fuck. It's your job as president to enforce the Constitution of the United States of America.
And people like Ken Paxton, who commit white-collar crimes, never seem to see the inside of a jail cell, never seem to see in the inside of a courtroom. How are you under indictment for 10 years? I don't even think the statute of limitations stretches that long for his crime. And the fact that you have an attorney general that's under indictment, I think that's the definition of irony, Tim. I think if you were to look in Webster's dictionary and you would look at irony, and it would say, for example, an attorney general being under indictment. It's insane.
Living in America.
I feel good. I feel good.
I don't. I feel like shit.
But,
man.
But that's what, that's what drives me nuts. And to get these people who, what would happen to any of us if we just had...
Scott, we'd be fucking 9 years into a 12-year sentence right now. Like, if we got indicted for the same crimes, we'd be 9 years in prison already.
Yeah, you know what I was saying? What if I had confidential information and I just shared it with my wife, my brother, some journalist, family friend, over a chat app that can be hacked easier than probably TikTok?
All you gotta do is claim that it's not confidential, and then you're fine. That wasn't confidential. That wasn't confidential. It was in reference to confidential stuff, but that itself wasn't confidential.
Even though it has the exact time and locations of the attack.
Hey, the mission still went off, okay? The mission, no American lives were lost. It wasn't confidential. That's how you win. That's how you win arguments, apparently. Like, facts don't matter. Literally, I got in an argument with someone on Facebook. They asked me a question. I answered it. Like, you still haven't answered my question. I'm just like, I'm fucking done with you. You are incapable, and there's nothing I say that will change your mind. So I'm done. Okay, well, you're scared of me. I'm not. I just think you're a fucking moron.
I blocked another classmate whenever I just sat there, and she was accusing me of being angry over the fact that she was talking about how we have LGBTQ in the curriculum. And I was like, I've been a teacher for 27 years. How's about fucking asking me?
But you know what? I am angry. How about this? Yeah, I'm angry that you're so fucking stupid that you just buy this shit hook, line, and sinker instead of going to talk to someone who's an actual teacher. And I think you have every right to be angry that people are this fucking stupid. It's hard not to walk around angry at all times when we live in the world that we live in, Scott. Like, to maintain any level of rationality is a goddamn fucking miracle right now.
Well, I loved her, and I just told her, I said, I'm not angry. I'm just giving you facts and common sense. And she said, I am too. And it's like, no, you're really not. Because the whole meme was, and I stumped her because, how dumb they are. It was one of those where I want kids to learn A-E-I-O-U in school and not LGBTQ. And so I said, so are they only going to learn 21 letters now? And she was like, what?
They don't get it, man. They don't. They think they're winning. They think they're fixing America. We've become a laughingstock on a global scale. We've lost rights, and people don't even realize the rights that we've lost. They think it's liberal to want to have labor rights. Like, God forbid, I don't want a billionaire to get a new boat while I'm fucking struggling to pay my mortgage. Like, oh, wow. Sorry, crazy. They should be building rocket ships while our fucking mortgage rates are rising like crazy. But yeah, I'm so glad Katy Perry went to space. Secondary scumbag are all those fucking people. All right, Scott. I hate billionaires, in case you guys didn't know. I don't like them. Don't like them at all. But that's all we got for you this week. It's been a fun week. NFL draft tomorrow. Don't forget it. We did, but now we're on top of it. And hey, Rockets had a nice first half of basketball.
And your Houston Astros are now 13-11, 2 games over 500.
Playing great ball.
Living the dream.
Living the dream, Scott. All right, that's going to do it for us here this week. We thank everyone for making us a part of your week. We'll see you next week on Born on the Bayou Sports.